I'm Lynn Hughes, and it's my wife Brooke, and this is our little bee club. Sometimes we refer to it as a monkey foot bee club. Uh, Dennis is going to talk a little bit. Most of y'all were here last month. We talked about actually we extracted some honey.
We extracted honey,
and
we did.
I don't think we got all the way through. Dennis thought we needed to talk about what you do with your supers, your honey supers, in the off season. So he's going to talk about that. I'm going to go ready a little something I got going on out here. Then we'll all come outside and might have we'll answer all the questions. Might refer to some people that know a little bit more about varroa mites than I do. So we'll turn it over to Dennis and give him a big round of applause. He got He's going to take autographs after.
First thing, I know that we have a million different phases of beekeeping in here. So understand everybody's going to have a different method. Everybody's going to have a different way of storage. For me, I'm an 18 to 20 hive person. A person with 1 or 2 hives, once they extract their honey, they may just put it in a freezer and protect their comb that way. For me, I have 30-something honey supers. I know Mr. Tim is even on a grander scale than that. So storing my honey supers in a freezer is not an option. So this is how I've been doing it for 8 years. After I extract the honey, I put my hives back out into the yard and let the bees dry it up. They'll clean the supers up as dry as you've ever seen. But what I use is moth ice crystals. This is not mothballs, all right? Totally different thing than mothballs. But I take the ice crystals. There's also, Mr. Richard, you have Paramount?
Paramount.
Okay. Never used Paramount, but Paramount is something you can buy from your bee supply store. Lynn may can get it, I don't know. This is what I've used since I've started. I get this in the Walmart at the ironing section. For about 2 years, I had to order it online because I swore Walmart didn't carry it, but I was in the wrong place. But you go back to where the ironing section is in Walmart, and here you find moth ice crystals. From what I'm understanding, it's a different active ingredient in this than is in mothballs.
Mm-hmm.
So in my storage shed, I use mothballs and hang them from the rafters. I mean, I have lots of mothballs in there, but on my beehives, on my supers, I usually take a Ziploc bag, poke holes in it with a fork, put a third of this bag in a Ziploc bag and put it underneath my supers, and then I stack 10, and then I put another Ziploc bag on top and put a cover on it. Typically, that lasts me for the whole year. When I put them in whatever time of the year I store my honey supers, typically that lasts me for the whole till I get ready to take them out. Mr. Tim, you probably got another whole direction you go because you are on a different level than I am. I know some of the people at the Enterprise Big Club had them actually stacked outside. I think Mr. Al used to do it. But understand this. That wax is your gold. That wax is what helps you stimulate that bee next year to make you more honey. Because what is it, 8 pounds of honey to make 1 pound of wax? So every bit of wax you can save and secure, when you put them back on, those bees are going to take to it. They're going to clean it, polish it, and when your nectar flow starts, they're going to go to store. So I think we did 45 gallons, 45 or 50 gallons. And the reason we got that in Memorial Day weekend is because everything I had, I threw 18, 20 boxes of drawn comb back on. So all your new beekeepers understand that your next year's success is you being able to secure this year's wax. That's how I do it. There's probably 10 different ways to do it. Just for me, securing it in the freezer and freezing it, I don't have a freezer big enough to do 20-something boxes. So, Mr. Tim, you got a different way?
Well, we stack up like an old barn, old mare, old barn, and we'll stack them up under there until we kind of run out of space. And the last ones I'll stack on a paddock and put that. Well, I use Paramount. What is it? Paramount.
So you actually use the one you can buy from the beef supply store?
Yeah, I tried stacking all I can old mare, and as long as I stack them maybe 2 or 3 inches apart and stack them up, and just try to keep a little space. And as long as there's no brood, where if the queen's been on them now, you might have problems with wax moth. But if it's good clean comb, just honeycomb, they won't want to mess with it. And I do stack them up on pallets and shrink wrap them and put the Paramount kind of between every 2 or 3 boxes. I'll do a sheet of paper. And then what you talking about with the sandwich bag thing sounds like a better idea to me. I usually just put the sheet of paper up and sprinkle some on it, go up and lay it and sprinkle some more. But
is the Paramount, is it a powder or is it crystals?
It's crystals. It comes in a 5-gallon, or you can buy it in gallon buckets. So you can buy a small amount, sure, but I usually get it in gallon, 5-gallon bucket. But you were talking about the wax. Kind of made me think about my first year or 2. I did bees. I tried this cut comb, and it's a great deal to do, but like you say, I put a box on with empty frames, and then I put a box on with comb, and I got a box of honey, and they barely drawn out the frame. So I don't cut comb no more. No, that's just like you say, the honey will sell, and it just takes the bees so much longer to make a box of honey if they got to do all that extra work. So I try to save the comb, and I don't do any cut comb anymore. Anyway, if you can space them out and get a little air in there, and I wouldn't shut them up in a airtight building. As long as you got an open air barn or something, I have good luck out there.
So you say
Before you cut it and put it in a jar with honey, we used to try to have cut comb, and we had some big top jars, and we just cut a good chunk of comb, drop it in there, and fill it up with honey. It's pretty, and some people like it. But to me, I couldn't get enough more out of that to be worth, messing up the comb, and it's extra work for you to try to get that little sheet of paper, wax to stand up in there, and that was a job. You go back and the wax is falling down, and I don't know, it's just a lot of extra work to cut comb.
A lot of people, and with cut comb, you use wax foundation, natural foundation. Yeah, a lot of the newer beekeepers and Lynn, you have the plastic foundation. Well, you can't. I haven't seen a way to do any kind of cut comb out of plastic with your plastic foundation, because your bees are actually drawing the comb on the plastic. But with that said, when you take and you run the hot knife or whatever you use to skim your wax your caps off, when you spin it, you're going to still have 3/4 of an inch to an inch of wax that's left on that plastic. So when you take it and you let the bees dry it out, and you let the bees rob back and take everything back to the hive, once they get that comb dried out, you put it in storage, and that's that much those bees don't have to do next year. That's why I say if you're a beginning beekeeper, protect your resources, and comb is your greatest resource. It took the first year I had bees, I think we made 60 pints, and I thought I was the biggest beekeeper in Dale County. And my wife took 48 of them for her own personal use. So I got to sell 12 pints of honey the first year I did it. But the guy that mentored me, which Tommy Smith, you probably know Mr. Tommy. Mr. Tommy said, Dennis, the most important thing you can do is secure your wax. Because next year, that's one box they don't have to draw off for you. This year, we've had, since I messed my arm up, I've got a lot of my honey supers on other guys' bees right now because they're on a tallow flow that I don't have. And they're protecting my wax right now, so everything I have is not in storage yet. So there's different things you can do. I promise you, there's not a beekeeper that you run into that won't say yes if you offer them some extra equipment for the year. When we harvested honey Memorial Day weekend, I said, hey,
I took some of me when I left.
I said, y'all need a couple of supers because our flow is getting close to over, and I knew they were sitting on a pretty large amount of tallow trees. So they took my stuff and
It's full.
3 boxes of honey.
I put one box on Thursday and they filled it up by Sunday. That was this past week.
I've added, in the last 2 weeks, I think I've added 5 boxes, and then I had some nooks that I had moved into 10 frame, and I put double deeps on them just to let them keep going because there's still tallow coming in, so I'm letting them go.
I think one mistake new beekeepers make is you underestimate what these ladies can do.
Mm-hmm.
In a strong nectar flow, they can. I know they're not here tonight, but the Heathers is the youngest lady that's in the club, that little teenage. He put a brand spanking new box, undrawn comb or undrawn foundation on the 19th of May. They went out of town for 6 days, come back, it's fully drawn out and full of honey. 6 days. When you're in a nectar flow, they can do amazing things. So they can fill a box up in 3 days.
Well, if they can move 40 gallons of sugar water in a day,
Yeah.
Just imagine what they're doing in that nectar flow.
I know in my yard I open feed during the winter, and I feed in 1 gallon chicken waters, and I can put a gallon chicken water out in the morning and come back in 30 minutes, and that gallon chicken water is empty. So I mean, that's a gallon in 30 minutes. So you do that. How many 30-minute sections are there in a day? So
That's why you get a tote and fill it up with pine straw, and then put 10 or 15 gallons in it.
And I'll elaborate on one that Dennis actually told me. If you catch a swarm is the greatest thing to draw comb. Because if there's a nectar flow, when you catch a swarm, they are drawing comb. And just to tell you, I took one. It was a relatively big swarm. I put them in a 10 frame deep, and it was just a few days. I had to put them in a double 10 frame deep. And with the exception of the 1 box I put on there from Dennis, they now have 3 supers on top of them. And that was when I called. It was late April, wasn't it? I mean, they were wanting to draw comb, and I was letting them. And they were doing it because the flow was on. You know, the bigger hives I had already surpassed what they were doing, but that was a making machine. I'm just telling you. So if you catch a swarm, if you got a good nectar flow, just be ready. Get your equipment together, because I could have been caught without anything because they were moving.
The one thing I try to tell everybody is you can't wait for you to be ready. Those bees, you should the first year or 2, you start formulating a calendar in your mind. My calendar for me is January 15th. I'm already feeding sugar water because I want that queen stimulated. Because if you think around here, most every year in Dale County, we have clover blooms by February the 18th, 19th. And when you start seeing clover blooming, your nectar flow is about to start. Now, it may not, I don't know how strong it'll be, but that first clover is the first thing that I see here from me that they go to really bringing in nectar. Now, I'm a cattle farmer too. Wild turnips, we make pollen the whole winter. Wild turnips, I have a harder time keeping bees from becoming pollen bound than I do honey bound.
Wow.
because 50 acres, and if I don't spray wild turnips this year, 50 to 100 acres of wild turnips, and they can fill every cell with pollen, which is, it's a good thing and it's a bad thing, because if that hive gets weak, now you're gonna fight hive beetles, because that's where the hive beetles gonna lay their larvae at. So as long as your hive, your colony is strong enough to run them up to the top corner and sort of keep them wedged in there. But I've lost, since this happened, I've lost 5 hives, and it's beekeeper error, because I can't go through them. I mean, I'm not allowed to pick up nothing. But pretty much every one of them has been hive beetles laying eggs in pollen, beginning the weakening process, and then everything else flows in. So, not trying to scare you. No matter what you do, there's something you're gonna have to watch in everything. All right. I think we talked. You said you was enjoying it. If you're enjoying it, enjoy it. The guy that mentored me told me, he said, "Listen, you're beasts. All right. I manage them. I do the best I can. But Leon's out there thinking I'm acting like a clown. At the end of the day, in the cattle world, if I lose a calf, I try to dissect to see what I lost the calf, what the reasoning behind it. But it's no different. Sometimes you're going to lose a hive beetle. It's going to happen. Whether it be mites, which is what Leon's going to talk about when we get outside, whether it be hive beetles. I come home Monday from school and looked, and I had a swarm hanging in a tree. And I was like, this ain't right. Went over there, and my strongest colonies had found a weak colony, and they robbed them. Pretty much kicked them out of their own house, took all their honey. And so I was catching a swarm, but I was catching a abscon is what I was catching. So there's so much stuff this time of year that you have to watch for, from mites to hive beetles to wax moth, and your stronger colonies finding a weaker colony. And I took every one of my smaller colonies and I put entrance reducers on them, so they only have them defend this. And it's crazy because it's hot, and they're bearding, and we're trying to manage ventilation too. But with that said, a weak colony, and in my yard there's 18 hives. There may be 3 weaker colonies over here, and there's 15 that are pretty aggressive and looking for a reason. They're looking for something to steal. So that's what I run into Monday when I come home, was they had brought 2 hives out. And luckily I come in, caught them, and got them in another box and moved them to another yard. I think what he wants to do is come outside and show y'all how to do oxalic acid treatments on a hive out there, and talk a little varroa mite. Mr. Richard, I think you better be ready. I think you better be ready for your varroa mite talk. So if y'all want to go outside, he should be right over there where everybody parked at.
Everybody ready to go outside?
So enough.
You got a question? I'm sorry I cut you off.
Taking him outside. Sorry, guys, I can't comment. I'm on the phone, and that's all I've got is my phone. So I want to say hi to everybody and thanks. I'm mainly live streaming this, so the people who are not here this evening have an opportunity to be able to watch it later, because we've got some people that are not here. So we're going to be doing some oxalic acid. There's Robert. Say hi, Robert.
Hi, Robert.
Robert without a bee suit on. Nobody's used to seeing you without a bee suit. I had to explain to him I couldn't comment. I don't know how to. I got on here trying to comment and say hi, but I'm gonna find me a makeshift tripod somewhere. I think we're gonna sit right here so we get a front row seat.
breathing that oasis. Now you can try it. I mean,
Yeah, the wind is coming this way, isn't it? Jesus. Now I got to get up. Oh, God. It gets harder and harder to do.
Is that everybody? Yeah, we don't want to kill nobody.
I was trying to find me a makeshift tripod. It ain't working.
I made a man one time.
How many will that tree look bad?
Ooh, no, I don't want to end stream.
You know, depending on what battery for. You can move them pretty quickly.
We're going to be back row Baptists. I have. And I have breathed it too, even with a respirator on. Thank you. And it did not smell good and it did not feel good going in my lungs.
Takes your breath away a little bit.
Just a little bit. Have you ever used Formic Pro?
I haven't. I've heard it one of those.
It is strong.
Really?
Yes. You wouldn't think it is, being that it's in a patty.
That's temperature sensitive.
Yeah, I used it early spring. I had to time it just right. I used it like the end of February when the weather was still kind of 40s, 50s at night and 70s, 60s, 70s during the day.
We tried to double it up too. Our problem was.
I know, right?
Our problem was we had a flow going so good we can't interrupt. But we pulled.
I know,
those
right?
patties out.
I'm afraid to
And we didn't know
interrupt
they were
anything.
double. Oh.
Richard here knows if you want to take a few minutes and explain that, if you would, how she does, where she goes, and lays her eggs, and how many in each cell, and why it's important to do a brood break. A little bit of that. So,
The lower mites are everywhere. Generally, if your bees don't have them in the colony, you're going to bring them back from the flowers. They're like fleas. They'll jump on the bees. But as I said to my class last night, I don't know of any person that's ever been infested.
Hey, Robert, you can just get your scuba gear on and go to the hives. And hey, DC. Hey, I'll bring it. Hey, I'm almost done with my bee blanket. You'll be proud of me.
They will be pregnant and be ready to come out. If they stay in long enough, which would mean they stay with the drone until day 24, then there could be multiple hatchlings and multiple female varroa mites ready to come out. The male mite usually dies and does not leave the cell. And so they'll come out, they'll jump, they'll either ride out on a bee that has emerged that they have filled with viruses. They're like ticks, they suck the hemolymph out and put it back in. They're trying to get the goodie out of the fat body, if you would. It's kind of like a liver in a human being. And they start on the bottom. And so the male will die, the 3 females or more will come out, and they will get on bees and they will down.
This is Richard Woodham speaking. He is our regional representative to the Alabama Beekeepers Association. We're fortunate enough that he lives in Enterprise and he comes every month to our bee meeting. Y'all please comment. I just can't comment back unless I say something.
That mites vector because they sucked hemolymph out of that bee and they took it over and they're just like ticks and spreading things. So the thing about a brood break is if you will remember, the varroa mites cannot reproduce if you do not have try to find a way to treat as close to having cells open as much as possible. Formic acid or formic pro is the only mite treatment that will get up under the cell down, but it's very strong and there's only certain mite treatments that you can use whenever you have honey supers on. Instead of me going down that list, you need to read the instructions and do not treat what you're not supposed to treat when we put honey supers on, or that's going to get in the honey that may get into your family or your grandchild or your children. So do not think, well, I'm not going to eat it because it's going to go get it somebody else and make it sick. So a blue break, for me to finish up so it doesn't get dark, means that you catch your queen and you can put her in an isolation cage with a frame that does not have anything in it. As the bees will come in, all it is a queen excluded that's chopped up and they've made an isolation cage for a big frame. And she's in there and she's only going to lay in those places.
Sorry, I don't have a tripod.
Outside of there, bees are hatching out or emerging is what technically they call it. And they're empty. She can't get to those cells that are outside the cage. And over 21 days, all the workers are out, and over 24 days, all the drones are out. So what you do is you take the queen out, and you take those frames out. You can put the queen somewhere else, either in a queen castle or put them in a nuke or something. And you actually treat the colony, but you actually freeze what she just laid. And that way you're going to stop the reproduction cycle. And if you'll do that over a period of 24 days, you will be able to treat every single cell that's in there and the phoretic mites that are on the outside. I'm not telling you you will never see a varroa mite on the queen. It is unlikely because she's constantly being groomed. The phoretic mites are going to be on the workers, and they're going to be mostly around the nurse bees. So the mites are going to be with us till Jesus comes back. They're serious. You probably need to treat 4 times a year. Make sure you follow the instructions of when you're supposed to do it. Look at the heat, the cool, and the ranges, but try to have as many empty cells as you can unless you use formic acid or formic pro, and that's the only one that gets under there. But it's best to not have your queen in when you treat, because every one of the treatments will damage the queen a little bit each time. Any questions?
Yay!
There's a lot of questions in a minute. Well, I'm going to show you what I do or how I do it. I've been to some of y'all's place and helped a little bit in the past.
He's got the Larabi's instant vat.
And if you got enough hives, it's worth the investment. That thing was $500.
Looks like it's got the DeWalt battery.
I don't know, north of, I'd say 15 to 20 hives, it might be worth the investment because you can move real fast with it. Me and Dennis, we treated his the other night, and it didn't take us all that long. Great.
Hey, they're cheating.
This is an OA application.
I think I can cheat too.
It kills the phoretic mite.
Excuse me.
And my understanding is it's oxalic acid. It's supposed to
Room over here for another old person. Oh, I don't know if that's strong enough to hold my foot or not. I gotta stabilize this. I'm shaking out there.
And the way I guess there's YouTube videos of how I do that. But this is 425 degrees.
You live over at Cotton Town?
I do. Over on Bingham.
My pa and all was down there the other day, and he seen somebody had bees and had long hives. I said, well, there's a lady in a club that's got one.
Who is your pa-in-law?
Terry Chancey. They'd always tell me about the ones in the curb there going to the hospital.
Yeah, those aren't mine. Now,
I said, well, I'll ask her.
I live, keep going straight.
Past them things. I said, because I heard talking to Charles Ward about, he said he patrolled somewhere over there doing some checking for her. I said, so I'm thinking she lives in the city limits.
Yeah, I think we got some good neighbors over there now, thank goodness.
I said, but dang, many people got them long horizontal.
I love it too. Man, I wish I could afford to get all of them long hives. They easy on the back, I tell you what.
It's all new to me, ain't it? Oh, it's all hard right now.
Saying the man with the veil already on without the mask, respirator.
That thing looks brand new. I ain't been anywhere. He come and done all mine twice last year. We done a bunch of years. There and that when I put them up on that pot.
I use a towel and a wet towel. And one of our state inspectors said, hey, drill a hole. And I found out it's designed to fit a 3/4 inch opening in the front, so you don't have to drill a hole in the bottom. You know, it may be. If you have that, you slide something in there. You did just.
It's a screen bottom board. It's just a demonstration. They're still gonna go with it. Got it to me there now. I had to walk around this floor. My truck was out there to where the dog was at.
Burned up all the way. Now, it didn't take all that long, right? But I mean, can you do stuff together? Put back in my head. Maybe with
Hey, Russell.
It's staying there a lot longer. That's one way to get rid of coal mine. We're not paying as much. Just have to look at all maybe cluster of eggs. And I can see my mind now. I checked in for January. Talk about how to do mind wash. Everybody knows how to do it. Everybody knows how to do a mind wash.
Sorry about the audio. My mic's busted again. I got to get a decent audio set up. So this is Lynn Hughes. He is with Farmer's Daughter, general store, barbecue, bee club, you name it. He's into everything. Bees, chickens, a little bit of everything. But he is just showing how to do an OA treatment, and he has the InstaVap, the big InstaVap. He doesn't have the mini. and he was showing the club members, and Richard was talking about mites and how to treat for mites. And
Dennis had a special problem. He went from having 0 mites to having how many mites?
Way more than I needed.
Way more than you needed.
You and me both last year. Last year was rough between the mites and the beetles.
6 weeks, we can knock those mites back. Not gonna get rid of all of them, but it will knock them back and keep them from spreading. So that's one method to treat rural mites. So, and I think that's the only approved method while you got honey super zone. Use the OA. So this is another one. Another one is Apivar. What is in this? Amatraz? Yeah, this has got Amatraz in it. I've got my gloves on. My safety gloves. My neoprene gloves. And how you put these in your hive? 2 to 3 ways. You got this little thing here. Fold it out, stick it down, it rolls up. But the easiest way is just a little toothpick.
Yeah. Lisa learned the toothpick trick after I had all in there.
I've got some frames right here, and I'll show you. Y'all can move closer now. We don't have to worry about getting gassed.
Calm that down in.
That's a great question. So you want to check your mouth. You got 40, 50 mites in the basic territory. That's supposed to burn them all up. Except what's behind. Let's just say we're in December, and you're going to go to the real pretty quick. I just tell you whatever. But when you might count, you know, the mites per, I'll talk about that. I don't think it's something. Just have a couple of these and alcohol wash. Some people don't want to kill them. Have a couple of these. Alcohol in here, you know, TVs in this.
Looking a little bitter at night.
You need to do it 4 times a year. But remember that the rural mites can only reproduce in cap cells. It's impossible for them to produce any other way. So what you'll see is the bees will build up, the bee population, there'll be a large amount of cap brood, and then the bee eggs, the queen will taper
He's
off.
a good boy.
And all this
Got
is
the
based on
Robbies.
nectar flow. So you're going to have your most mite count at the end of the peak of the cap brood, because they're going to be in the cap brood and on the bees.
And you might, your bees are starting declining this time of year.
Yes.
And the mites will be going up.
Absolutely, because of the cap brood that's left and the mites that are on the bees. So you need to check 4 times a year, and the best time to do this is in the January-February time frame, and about every 3 months, but you've got to time it in between the nectar flows. We had privet eggs, and frankly now's a good time to check your bees for your mites. Then we're going to have the tallow. So you won't treat during that time, and then after the tallow, you'll check and treat, and then we've got goldenrod. So you probably want to double check again around the goldenrod, and then after that buildup is when you're going to be checking.
And so Zach had a good point. I didn't mention it, but he's going to tell you what he said. Hey, tell him this.
So when you do your mite wash, when you get your bees off the frame, you're going to get them off of a brood frame. not off of nectar, not off of pollen, but off of a brood frame. Because what you want is nurse open brood. Because you want nurse bees. Because that's where you're going to find your population at. So just want to throw that in there. Make sure it's off of the nurse bees and they won't fly out the cup. So when you do it, if they take off flying, you got the wrong ones.
So that, and we'll answer questions, but I'm just going to just briefly show. So you got the apivar strips, and that's what I'd use. And it's you cannot use this. My understanding is why you have honey supers on. Because the bees will rub against this, and they get the chemical on their feet and their back, and they're getting it in your honey. You don't want to eat apivar for amatraz. And that's the easiest way. You just slide it down between the frames. Usually, I think it's 2 per hive, correct? Yeah. 2 per hive. And static.
Back to what he was saying, you want to put them in the box that the nurse bees are in because that's where the varroa mites highest population.
How long was that?
2 per 10 frame box.
42 day treatment.
2 per 10 frame box, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
So if you got a double hive, you're going to use 4 strips.
That's how long they tell you to leave it in, 42 days.
Now, last year, I'm just being honest, I used this, and it didn't seem to slow them down. I don't know if we just had extra super good mites last year, strong mites.
Building resistance to amatraz.
So amatraz, apivar may not be the best way to get rid of your mites.
What's the alternative?
The other one is you got
Formic Pro,
what's the
Apiguard.
Apiguard.
Bee inspector uses Formic Pro year round in between the flows. Formic Pro. Now you just have to watch the temperature because that's the strongest one, and it's really best to move your queen out because it will affect you.
And it's 85 degrees or below. Is that the one with 85? Is like temperature sensitive?
55 to 85.
Yeah, somewhere in there.
That's the range there. And there may be another. I'm sure there's others.
Apiguard.
My partner with my 42-acre bee farm just asked me to order around of Apiguard.
What is the kind that uses? What is the kind that's made from hops? Hop guard.
Yeah.
It's awful. Don't bother.
Yeah, they have hop guard 1, 2, 3, 4, but I've never had many people tell me it's any.
Nope.
Is Apiguard, is that in the blue bucket?
It comes in a bucket, but you can also get them in the little aluminum trays, like for small.
I think it's a green
I think
bucket.
it's a. I thought it.
I got a bucket
yeah,
over there or something.
I think you're
I
right.
hadn't opened it yet. I think it's green.
Well, that model, check mine. That's in the white bucket.
Well, check mites are strips. And
Check
I
my
got some stuff
Pro
I
or
like to kill.
that's probably Formic Pro.
That's just,
But now you squirt it out like you do.
No, the Formic Pro I got came in patties. They're sawdust patties.
You have a tin thing they send to give you to put it out. But it's strong, but it's good.
Now, what am I forgetting? We talk a little bit. Now, if that's all we got on that, that's just knocking the dust off the top. So, I recommend the OA though in December. You talked about the brood break and caging the queens. You talked about that in.
Yes, I did. But you want to check your varroa mites after you treat also. And you may have to treat multiple times with OA every 5 to 7 days. It is not a one-time treatment.
How long to check after you treat them?
A few days, because you really want to know if what you did any good. I do it within a week for sure.
So that's the varroa mite, and the other pest we have is the small hive beetle. And we're gonna let Dennis talk a little bit about the couple of traps that work. The one I like the best is the beetle blaster trap. Is one I have the most success with. But he'll talk about that, and then he'll tell you what this is. Another round of applause, Dennis.
In the world of beekeeping, you talk about mites. Sometimes you don't. Mites is the silent killers because unless you do a wash. The way I found mine was when I pulled honey supers the last week of May. We started breaking honey supers, and the bees had built combs in between the supers, And what I found was I started seeing those little purple bugs running all over the brood. And when I got to 10, and that was just in between one super, when I got to 10, I said, no, I got a problem. So we went to arranging the treatment for it. Mites is a silent killer. It's sort of, it's out of sight, out of mind, and a lot of new beekeepers. I'll tell you this, I enjoyed being able to tell people that I was mite free and I didn't have to treat for mites. And the more I look at it, the more I go back and think about it, those colonies I've lost, it's probably because of my pride. Plain and simple. If you got bees, you got mites. If you got mites, you got colonies that's beginning to weaken. Plain and simple. So mites is the silent killer. Hive beetles is the little pests that you will always be able to see. A bunch of different ways. I have used them. These beetle blasters, am I right? Beetle blasters, beetle gels.
It's called beetle gel. And I know it's roach gel that we use.
They go in between your hive like that. Now, you can look at it 100 different ways. They're your bees to take care of. I promise you, if you go to a commercial beekeeper, commercial beekeepers are getting paid to take care of their bees, and they don't care about what the state says can be done. Most of your hobby beekeepers sit there and let the rules of the state affect them. These are designed for an oil, all right? You put cooking oil in it, or they make a beetle gel oil that then be proud to sell you, or you can use cooking oil. You fill that half full with oil, put it in your hive, and as your bees are chasing the beetles around, the beetles are looking for a tight space to go to get away from bees. When they drop off in that hole right there, if they fall in the oil, that oil kills them instantly. All right? The same general idea for this. This is just a little bit different build, but the same principle.
Oops.
It's all the way down. Hey, how you doing? It wedges in there just like those. It went all the way down.
The difference is those are reusable if you don't drop them in the box.
Right.
These are disposable.
Most of the time, these, when you pull them out, you're going to dent them up, and they're going to be compromised.
But you can use them a long time. I mean,
I use this. This is a beetle barn. 4 holes, just big enough for the beetle to go in. And I'm going to tell you, you can look at it 100 different ways. I'll tell you what I do. Inside here, I put combat roach tape. It's a gel. Bee can't get to it. Beetle goes in.
Don't come out.
It doesn't come out. It is completely contained. You're going to find out that hive beetles is going to be your worst enemy. As bad as mites are, hive beetles are my worst enemy. Now, these are all different ways it sets in just like this. Biggest problem I have with it is bees like to glue everything in this hive. And usually if you leave it in for a month, as your beetles run in, they start gluing holes to the point that those beetles can't get out, but they can another beetle go in. So that's the issue. You have to take them out probably once every 2 or 3 weeks and sort of clean them and reapply whatever you choose to use. Some people use Crisco and borax as a home remedy. Some people use. Now, Swiffers. I just started this last year. I've never used one. This is your regular old Swiffer pad. Buy them at Walmart, Dollar General, wherever you're at. From what I'm understanding, you take like a fine comb and you rub this up a little bit. You put that in the top of the hive, put your cover back on, and the hive beetles have their legs have like
barbs.
Spines. Barbs. There you go. And they get stuck in it. And when I first started, I was worried about the number of bees I was going to lose to this, but you lose a lot more hive beetles than you do bees.
You'll squish more bees than you'll lose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another way. Now, third, well, the last thing I do is I keep a whole pocket full of peppermint.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it does it, I know when I have a hive beetle infestation, I keep every time I do a hive inspection, I put 4 pieces of peppermint in the top. There's probably nothing scientific about that, but I know that when I can get my hive beetle population under control every time I do inspection for 4 pieces of peppermint in the top. If you watch 628 Dirt Rooster, he put me onto that as a YouTube channel.
It came from Hillbilly Earl.
Hillbilly Earl.
Hillbilly Earl put him on it. Hillbilly Earl is the funniest hillbilly you'll ever meet.
But what I do is I go to Walmart and buy a big bag of peppermint, keep them in the house, give me a handful, put it in my jacket, and every time I do an inspection, I drop peppermint in there, and it seems that I have less.
You just drop it on top?
I put it in between. Usually it'll wedge right there. Now sometimes it's gonna go just like that.
Now last year, Robert, you saw me using essential oils. I was using the peppermint essential oils and just dribbling it on the frame tops. I did everything last year. We had horrible hive beetles.
Terrible last year.
It was awful.
What are you seeing this year?
Not as bad, but I did something a little non-traditional that I picked up from some of the streamers. Um, People are using some Grub-X and triazicide on the ground, but when you put it down, you need to make sure your bees are in the hives. Put it down before it rains. So go in the evening, put it down on the ground. I have a big vinyl tarp. It's actually a vinyl billboard that I have my hive sitting on, and I just went around the edge and in the perimeter. I didn't even go near the bees, and let it rain in. I've seen maybe 1 or 2 hive beetles so far in my colonies, and I'm also using the oil bottom boards, the oil pans. If you use screen bottom boards, you can get oil pans that go in the bottom. I'm finding that to be a little bit bigger of a pain because my ground is not real level, but they work good.
Second time I went in a hive with her, there were some hive beetles. Third time I went into that same hive, we tossed the hive.
Mm-hmm. The bees had already absconded. It was
they will slam it out.
It was that cutout I did, Richard, last year in Enterprise. Man, I brought home a ton of hive beetles in that thing. Just maggots crawling everywhere.
Ugh. Whatever you put in here,
it's nasty.
Only fill it halfway because you're going to take it out. You're going to lay it down somewhere. It's not going to stand up that way. You're not going to do that. If you fill it up, it's going to spill. So do not fill it over halfway.
Kill your bees. Feel like that.
And if you use roach gel like I do, then the bee, you want to make sure only fill it halfway. And I'm talking about like 3 or 4 squirts because the bees can get little boxes if you fill it up. And so I don't know how much these are.
Not very much. $3.50, I think.
Okay.
$3.
If you happen to have a bunch of
For one?
political signs that people advertise,
you don't have to look
with,
right now.
Corrugated plastic.
Never
If
use
the ribs
those.
are running this way, all you have to do is cut through half of it, open it up, squirt your stuff in
He's
there.
the most hyper person.
Now,
He's worse than me.
And the hot beetles will run in there, and that's the cheapest way to do that. Real quick. Y'all probably mint oil work.
The peppermint oil, it's hard to say because honestly, I was using peppermint candies, and they are doing research on that. I think Jamie Ellis. I think Jamie Ellis at University of Florida or Florida State. I always get them mixed up. God forbid. I got a whole family down there that's Gators fans. God, don't tell them I get them mixed up. But the peppermint works pretty good. The peppermint candies did. When I was using the peppermint oil, I had Swiffers, I had Beetle Blasters, I had Borax I did everything. You just don't know the hive beetle situation I had. and I was waiting for those oil bottom boards to come in. So I was fighting them with everything I had because I was losing. I was just throwing crap at them. You know, I was desperate.
You asked how much? These are basically the same, about $1.50, $2,
Okay.
whatever. The Beetle gel is the one that was $3.
Okay.
But it's reusable, like you said.
And some people use old compact disc cases for that and get good luck. And I've used the Advion. I never advertised that I used the Advion bait because I made the comment the first Alabama Beekeepers Association I went to in Clanton, and an old timer, you don't need to be doing that. I'm like, okay, I don't do it then. But you know, you've got it down in this. You've got it down in this beetle blaster, so the bees are not going to get in there to it. So I don't know. You throw everything at them when you got pests. I mean, I lost 3 to 4 hives last year, and I didn't have but 8. So you know that's a significant loss. So
Now here's your thing though. So like I told you, I've lost several since this has happened. Secure your resource. Just because it's been slimed out does not mean that you're going to take and you're going to discard that whole hive and burn it. Right? Every bit of my resources there's the one the other day that I found slimed out. I set it out. I let my other bees come. Trust me, they're gonna rob it.
mm-hmm.
There's nothing that a strong hive won't take back. So what I do is I set it out, where I store my stuff at. Let my stronger colonies come rob it out. 9 times out of 10, you're gonna find hive beetle larvae in your pollen, and that's where your slime out starts at. You take that, put it in a freezer, or put it in a garbage bag, throw it in the freezer. 2 days in the freezer, all of those larvae are dead. You put it back out, and I have chickens, and I knock it out. The chickens eat all the larvae, and it's ready to go back in, because when you put it back in a hive, they're going to spend 2 days of cleaning it, and they're going to get everything off of it that they don't want, and then they're going to put it right back into production.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the biggest thing from a person this is year 9 for me. Secure your resource, and your resource is your comb. You can do so much right with the comb. I mean, next year when you go catch a swarm, if you let that comb waste, you don't have it. I take 2 frames of comb with me to every swarm I go catch. And when I catch that swarm tomorrow, when I open it up and check them, that queen's gonna be running around that comb. And I mean, I've caught 11 swarms this year. So every swarm call I go to, I take at least 2 frames of comb with me. All my swarm traps, it gets 1 frame of the darkest, ugliest, nastiest comb I got. And it seems to be what a swarm. This happened the day of the honeybee festival is when I tore my bicep.
Yeah.
Next Saturday, I caught a swarm in a swarm trap. Then come help me move it home. Hurt his back. I gave it to a church member. We take it on a Saturday. We take it out. I take my swarm trap back to the same location. Put two more frames of nasty comb in there. And the Thursday after surgery, there's another swarm sitting in there. Mm-hmm. So there's ways to get free bees out there. You just gotta think outside the box. This is the first, Lynn turned me on the swarm trap in Mason. Lynn knew nothing about beekeeping in Mason. Nothing.
No, I've been in beekeeping my whole life.
So Lynn all of a sudden, Lynn starts putting swarm traps in different places and catching bees, free bees. So this year I decided to build swarm traps, and every hive you catch is a hive that you won't have to buy.
That's right.
That's the way I look at it. Miss Lisa puts up swarm traps all
I
over.
didn't catch any this year. I paid for my swarms this year. I was working 2 jobs.
Mr. Tim, you just catch your own if they come out, right? If you can.
If you can, and they don't go too high.
Listen, I broke my leg.
Listen, Dennis lets it land in the back of his truck lines at work. Him and Zach each caught swarms in the pickup truck while they was at work.
They like it.
Yeah, they're not even in the same parking lot.
You just keep a box in the back of the truck with some old brood comb in it. That's all you got to do. They'll move in.
You go home.
I caught one last year that just moved in some old boxes last year.
There's ways everybody here will have something different that they enjoy about it. I love catching swarms. I mean, when Lynn called and said, hey, I can't go get this one, can you go? I'm riding around right now in my truck right there with a box. Even though swarm season should be over with, I'm riding around with a box because I have caught one in July before.
I don't think it ever ends.
Yeah, well,
What's the old saying though? A swarm in July, let them fly. That's right.
The peak of our swarm season here this year,
March.
I caught my first swarm March the 19th, and
8
I caught the last one Good Friday. So typically when that nectar flow is going here, which is anywhere from March till the 1st of May, you have an opportunity to catch it.
That's your peak. Okay.
Don't they seem small to you this time of year?
The later they get, it seems like unless you're getting an abscon where a whole hive moves out, if it's a true swarm, then you're going to have probably less than a volleyball size.
They just really a swarm this time of year to me.
It's hard to. Now the one I caught on Good Friday, I caught them and filled up a deep, and when I got them home, I put a medium super on top of them, and within 8 days they had thrown off 2 boxes, and we made 3 boxes of honey on it this time. So early swarms can make honey and can make lots of honey.
That was some of my bees that probably went up there. You know. So it's 8 o'clock.
Frogs are coming
we do
out.
not have to leave, but officially our meeting is over. I know there's 1,000 questions. Well, whoever y'all want to ask or whatever.
All right, we're
just
ending
knock
the live
yourself out.
stream.
I know
Good night,
you
y'all.
probably got a lot of questions. So just fire away.